Okay, are you ready? Yeah, going.
Yeah. I'll have to give her more confirmation.
Guys.
Thank you. Hello.
Okay, we're working on pinch pots today. The first step is going to be to wedge your clay. Always wedge your clay. You want to make sure that you wedge your clay at least 20 separate times. If you're not comfortable enough yet with the wedging of your clay, I suggest you wedge it a few times and take the time to cut it open a few more times just to make sure that you're not having any air bubbles before you start making a project, okay? I know we kind of skipped through that quickly. Next step, what is it?
Forming a ball.
Form a ball.
Form your clay into a ball. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to form your clay into a ball. I'm just going to get mine kind of close because I'm not going to keep this. All right. Next step, what is it?
Using finger to thumb.
Right, make your hole using your finger or your thumb. You want this hole to be about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, okay? I'm going to take the time right now to smooth out the inside of my pot. It's the width of your pinky finger, okay? All right, now I'm going to use my thumb and my first finger to pinch around this edge to make my pot thinner. You need to do this slowly. If you pinch too quickly, you're going to stress out your clay and it's going to crack, okay? Once you get your hole wide enough, you can go ahead and use more fingers, and you don't have to necessarily use your thumb anymore if you don't want to. You can pinch this into any shape that you want. You don't have to pinch it into a circular bowl. If you want to pinch it into a square, that's fine with me. If you want to pinch it so that it's tall and skinny, you can. Or if you want it to be short and fat, it can be short and fat. But you get to decide that as you pinch your pot open, okay? Once you get it no thicker than 1/4 of an inch, you have a few options here. So I'm pretty good right about now. It's no thicker than about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, can you guys all see that?
That's amazing.
All right. Right now I'm going to decide what I want the bottom to be like. You can leave it rounded because we are going to attach a foot, so it will have something to sit on. Or you can make it flat. You can change the shape right now. I could tap it on the surface and make it square. But I want my bottom to be flat, so I'm just going to use the weight of my clay, kind of tap the bottom lightly to give myself a nice flat bottom. Okay? Now the next thing to think about is this top edge here. You can change this. You can leave it flat if you want to, and you can make it nice and even by turning it upside down and lightly tapping it. And I mean lightly because if you tap this too hard, you're just going to collapse your bowl. So that will give you a nice flat edge on the top. If for some reason as you're pinching your top gets too wonky, you can use a cutting tool to cut that edge nice and flat and then tap it. Wonky, that's a good word, right? Okay, so you leave your edge flat. You can change this surface. You can scallop it. You can take little sections of it out. However, you're not going to make ashtrays. I will not fire anything that even resembles an ashtray, so don't do that. Furthermore, you can not only change this surface here, but you can change the style of your pot. So say I want to make this kind of like a little change bucket. I can kind of squeeze this in here and let it wrinkle so that it looks like one of those little cloth sacks that you would tie a string around like a drawstring. Keep your change in it if you wanted to, if you want yours to have a purpose. What do you mean?
That bowl had a purpose.
Like one of those change, like a bag. It looks more like a bag than a pot. Okay?
That is a sign for the storm.
When you're making your projects, you want to make sure that you take the time to smooth out the surfaces as you work, because it's overwhelming if you wait until the very end, all right? So smooth out all your little cuts that you just made. What's the next step? So I formed my bowl.
Decorate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to decorate. You're going to use textures. What does texture mean? It just means that you're changing the surface of your project. You can do many different things, including cutting holes. You can cut a hole in your project.
Quit cutting holes in it.
You can cut a hole in your project to change the surface. Okay? You're going to want to take the time to smooth that out as you go. I like to use my finger to smooth it out, but another good tool to use would be a damp sponge, which everyone should have on their tables. Okay, so that's changing the surface. I can use lube tools to carve into my clay. One thing I want you to think about when you're doing this is, do your textures go together and do they make sense? Because I'm grading you not only on did you do the required parts of the project? Did you have 3 textures and did you have a foot? But I'm also going to grade you on your creativity and originality, and how hard did you try to make this pot look nice and neat, and does it all work well together? Any one of you could put X's on one side, circles on another side, and lines on another side, right? But do those 3 textures necessarily go together? No, not necessarily. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to what your textures look like and what your pot looks like from all angles. So I'm not saying that you can't use texture to make this into something. Okay, I could turn this upside down and cut another eyeball into it and make it look like Darth Vader if I wanted to.
We could, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could. You can make it look like something. My requirement is that you use 3 textures and that you have a foot on it. Beyond that, you can use as much creativity as you want to. You can make it into plankton. You could make a SpongeBob. You could make, I don't know why I'm so focused on SpongeBob characters, but you can make anything that you want to. So long as you're satisfying my requirements, I don't mind if it looks like something else. All right? After you put your textures in, you're going to want to make sure you take the time to smooth out your pot as much as possible again, because you're going to get those little burrs of clay. And remember, if those get fired, they become sharp. The next step is going to be to put a foot on your project. There's quite a few different ways you can do this. The easiest one is just to make 3 different shapes and put them on the bottom. For the sake of time and ease, I'm just going to do little circles. When you attach 2 pieces of clay, what do you need to do? What's that process?
Slip and score.
Slip and score. Good. You can do circles. You could do squares, triangles, rectangles. You could do any shape that you want. The minimum amount that you can have is 3. If you only do 2, it's going to wobble back and forth. You can do 3, you can do 4, you can do 5, you can do 6, you can do a bunch of little balls, you can come up with your own design. But it'll sit nicely off the table now, okay? That creates a shadow, which makes your project more aesthetically pleasing. That just means it's prettier to look at,
What's it
okay?
supposed to be?
I don't know. It's just a pot right now. You could take the time to make a coil. A little snake of clay.
Snake. Oh.
Okay, you could roll a snake around the around the bottom, cut the excess off. That still counts. You could swirl this. You could make it into a swirl and attach it to the bottom. Swirl it. Okay. You can make just a little coil, and you can smooth it into the surface if you want to. So say I made this my foot, and I want from the outside, I want you to not know that it has a foot on it. I want it to look like it's part of my project. I'm only going to do a little part of it here.
Then it wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing.
But it still
You
makes
decide.
shadow.
On the ground.
Okay, but you could smooth it in so that it actually looks like a part of your project. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. The next part, what is it?
Smooth out the pot and make sure it's
Smooth out your pot and make sure that it's nice and pretty. Okay, make it as smooth as possible, make it as neat as possible. What's that next step?
initial your bottom.
Initial the bottom. Make sure that you're signing the bottom of your projects. That is super, super important, okay? For storage, the next step, storage. At the end of the day, make sure you're wrapping your clay in damp paper towels and plastic bags, all right? That is super, super important. Are you guys going to work on a piece of wood today?
Yep.
Yes, because you're going to want to be able to easily move your project. The less you handle this, the better off you are, okay, once you get it to a finished point. So if you keep it on a board, you can just lift the board and take it back and forth to your seat. Any questions? You can.
Yeah.
We're good.